Prior to the late 1950s and early 1960s, there was an area of Dothan, Alabama that was mostly inhabited by African Americans, known as the Southside, but was also referred to as Frogtown. It was a community made up of residential homes, churches, a school, a few businesses, but mostly the lives and livelihoods of many of the black people in Dothan. It was a close-knit community comprised of families, poverty, as well as prosperity. There were many things that could be done without leaving the neighborhood. You could go to church, shop at a store, grow your own food, go to school, or go out on the weekend and have a good time at the White Horse. Some of the residents lived in nice homes, while others lived in houses that were substandard with no electricity, no inside plumbing. Some had outdoor toilets, outhouses. Many of them would be described as run-down shacks. Most of them were located on dusty dirt roads. Little known to the residents of Southside, a major change was about to take place, which they would have little or no input into what was about to transpire. It was the beginning of what is known as urban renewal. From 1949 to 1974, the U.S. government underwrote the program known as urban renewal, the planned redevelopment and improvement of deteriorated urban areas, often involving demolishing old structures and constructing new ones. It also included the process of seizing and demolishing large swaths of private and public property for the purpose of modernizing and improving aging infrastructure. This program was implemented through a Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD grant and loan program. Much of the time, these projects split or destroyed black communities throughout the U.S. The South Side was no exception. All of its residents were forced to relocate. They didn't have a choice. Here's a former resident describing what it was like living on the South Side.
Growing up on South Side, we was poor, but our parents provided for us. And to me, it was pretty good. We did what we had to do, and we had love. We looked out for each other. And if someone needed anything, we would provide for them. And then if we need anything, they'll provide for us. But to me, it was pretty good. Like some of them was a substandard house, as we say today. But they kept it clean. We cut our grass. We just kept it together. We looked out for each other. My house was like what we call shotgun house. But we had bedroom, we had a kitchen, and on the back of that house, my dad had a room built, and we had a bathroom, and we had water, we had hydrant, and then we had a chicken yard. But I never can remember anything about an outhouse. But I knew there was one there at one time because I could see the indication in the middle of the chicken yard. It was like 75 feet wide and about 100 deep. We had enough to have 7 or 8 rows of vegetables and about 10 to 15 yards long. Observing the history on the life on the South Side, that just, to me, show the younger generation to appreciate what we had to go through. Because a lot of these young people just don't know. They don't know what we had to go through or what we had to do to survive. We can sit here half a day, all day, and still talk about Southside. The sawmill quarters, those rough days, but those people had to have jobs, and they came to the sawmill, and they came from the surrounding areas to get jobs, and they had houses for them. We call them the mill quarters, sawmill quarters, and that was fun to me. So we used to run up through them sawmill yards and everything and get on the lumber they done cut. I remember when my dad left and he went to Cleveland, Ohio to work to support us. And when he came back, he was when he left Dothan, he was the Johnson at First Baptist Church. And when he came back, well, they had hired another, Mr. Joe Glenn. And so when he came back to Dothan, they said, well, we can't have two. So we'll let Mr. Glenn go. And Curley, you can stay and work. My daddy said, no, I will find a job. You keep Joe Glenn. You keep Joe Glenn. My daddy went to the sawmill, and his job was to stack lumber. And he had to work at the sawmill, I'm gonna say about 6 to a year, and they called him back from First Baptist and said, we gonna keep both of them. And so they did.
Did your mother work outside of the home?
She worked for the health department, veterinary health department, for a while, but mainly she raised us. My dad he wanted us to be raised, you know. He didn't want her to be working. But then she started working for Southeast Alabama Medical Center. She was housekeeping, and she retired from that. The funnest memory to me was on Thursdays when the downtown was shut down at 12 o'clock. And all the grown men and so forth would come over to the schoolyard, and we would play baseball against them. It was Cookie's daddy, his uncles, and his cousin name was Bubba Palmer. And I remember him well because I was a catcher. He would snatch the ball in front of you before you could even swing. And there was a couple of white guys, namely, I knew one, Richard Seaman. They would come and play with us. They wanted to play with us when we let them play. We had a good time. I played at Carver, and I was a catcher. And Sonny Cooper, which was my cousin, was the coach. And then I left from there and went to Alabama State on a baseball scholarship and stayed at State 2.5, 3 years. And then therefore, I went in the Air Force, and we was playing fast pitch softball then. And then I went into Europe and played softball and football, tackle football in Germany. When we left Southside, we built a house. It was in 1958, I believe. And we went to Lakeview on the east side of town, right off of Stringer Street. And then we moved to Eagle Road. My dad was the last one that sold his property. And then we bought what we need on the east side. Whatever they sold for their house and property, we started building, paying for ourselves, and I think my daddy talked to First National Bank. And then he went from there and, and built his own. We got different people to help. One thing standing in my mind is we had to go to ball practice, baseball. We had to walk from Southside down through town to get to Lakeview, to the center, and there and back. And then late at night, you had to walk back. But my dad, he would always get off from work and walk with me until we got large enough that we could do it on our own. What stood out in my mind at Lakeview, they had a pool down there. And everybody on the weekend, everybody from both sides of town was at that pool. Living on the south side, it taught me to respect the elders, respect each other, integrity, and love. We looked out for each other. And that was the most important thing to me that I ever seen. We loved each other. We looked out for each other. And we still communicate with each other when we got grown.
The Southside of Dothan was a community that relied on each other, filled with people who worked together to make the most of their neighborhood, regardless of the circumstances that they faced. Many of the residents moved to the east side into a newer subdivision known as Lakeview. Whether you refer to it as Southside or Frogtown, it produced many fine, successful individuals, just like the one that you just saw. Today, the Southside is made up of homes mostly built in the 1960s and 70s. Many of them are now occupied by African Americans. Urban renewal may have taken away their homes, but it couldn't take away their spirit.